Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to the channel. This week we're talking about pacing and why it's important in your marathon training. We're going to be talking about recovery runs, easy pace runs and all that kind of stuff related to pace, plus a little bit of heart rate monitoring. So let's get stuck in. To our London Marathon and Manchester Marathon training series. I'm here in Waltham Abbey, Essex, at the scene of the Gunpowder Parkrun. This parkrun takes place every Saturday, if you don't know about parkrun, at 9 o'clock. The reason I'm here, as you saw in the thing, the opening bit of B-roll, is because I was doing some practicing of my pacing around here. Now this is a great track to do it on because it's a pretty flat parkrun and it's 2 laps to make up the 5k, which is perfect for me when I'm trying to play around with pacing. So that's why I'm here at Gunpowder Park in Essex. And I say, if you want to do a bit of tourism, definitely come down here because it's a great course with PBs. Anyway, pacing is really essential. Now, I mentioned it before in the opening, what we're going to talk about today, but it doesn't matter whether you're marathon training or you're going for a 10k, to get your pacing right, which is really hard, and to get to know your pacing is really hard, but once you get to know what your pacing is, it can make a huge difference to your marathon training or whatever training you're doing. Right guys, so why is pacing important? Well, we all know that everybody starts off too fast in a race or on an event or whatever, whether it be a park run like here at Waltham Abbey or whether it be like a marathon. Let's talk about London, for example. Going off too fast is a killer. Going off too slow can be a killer, believe it or not. I ran London last year and I felt like I actually ran the first half too slow. Now that might seem a silly thing to say, but to get your pacing right is quite a hard thing to do, and over the last couple of years I've really been working hard to try and establish what my pacing patterns are, and hopefully from this video it's going to give you a few ideas and thoughts on how you can sort of improve your pacing in your training. I'm not talking about actually at a race event, we'll get onto that later on in the series, but actually in your training, because I think if you can nail it in your training, it will make a huge difference come race day. Pacing is really hard to establish and it's really hard to understand your own pacing. It's one of the things that comes up most in our couch to marathon training sessions that we do here in Broxbourne on a Wednesday. People really don't know what their pacing is. They struggle to understand what their pacing is. So just to give you a brief overview of my pacing, and hopefully this helps if I can sort of illustrate it in a relatively easy way. My sort of easy pace is me working at about 80% capacity, so I've got about 20%, and it's a pace that I can hold for a long period of time. I can have a conversation, I can chat, I can film, I can muck about and all that sort of stuff, and that's basically my easy pace, as I say, and that's what I will go and run on a long run, and it's, as I say, more important, it's something I can maintain for a long period of time. With regards to my actual splits, an easy pace run for me is about a 6 minute per kilometre, no faster than a 6 minute per kilometre split, just to give you a clue, and I'll go through the others in a minute. My sort of, what's the best way to describe it? Race pace. So if I'm looking to do something at race pace, which may be a speed session or I don't know, whether I'm doing a park run or something like that I put into my training plan, a race pace for me is about 5 minutes per kilometre. So I'm going pretty quick for myself, but I'm not going full out crazy. It's just a pace which I can hold for a reasonable period of time. So it's like a tempo pace, but I call it race pace. Then I've got my marathon pace. Now, like I said, I think last week with regards to pacing wise, I'm looking for a sub 4 hour marathon. So I'm going to run, and we'll come on to this later on in this series, but I'm looking to run the first half in about 1 hour 53, and then the second half in about 2 hours 5, something like that. So I've got a little margin of error. So my marathon pace is going to be separate, actually. I'm going to be running at around 5:36, 5:37 per kilometre, and around 5:50-ish on the second half. I'll come on to that later on. This is why I'm doing it like that, but that's basically what I'm doing. So that's my marathon pace. So marathon pace is what you intend to run your marathon at, and you should put elements in your long run, and again we'll get onto that when you're doing your long run, put some marathon pace in it. That's the sort of pacing I work on. The other sort of run pace I do is a recovery run. Now I run that at a pace at which I'm just comfortable ticking along, so it's a natural gait for me. That's usually around 5:40 per kilometre. It's really easy. I'm not overexerting myself. I'm just taking it very, very easy, and I'm running to feel. But more importantly, I'm looking at my heart rate. Right guys, so one of the things I've been working on over the last year is pacing according to my heart rate. Now, I've got a Garmin 735 XT thing. I think I mentioned that before. I got it through my Fitness Rewards thing where I got a massive discount. And by the way, check them out. Thanks for sponsoring Fitness Rewards. But most people nowadays have got a Garmin watch of some sort, or a Polar watch, and hopefully it's got some form of heart rate monitoring on it. Now, I've found that since I've been monitoring my heart rate when I'm doing my runs, my training runs, I've found my pacing has got better. So just to give you an idea, now this is only me, and this is just what my beats per minute and all that sort of stuff is. I run my easy pace runs, and I make sure that my heart rate doesn't really go over 160. Now, ideally I'm looking for around 150, but 160 is about a good place for me to be. Now I know that means I'm working, but I'm not working too hard, and that's something I can maintain, like as I said, on this easy pace runs that I can hold over a long distance of time, whether it be up to 20 miles if we're marathon training. My harder runs, so whether I'm running at marathon pace, whether I'm running at race pace, or I'm doing tempo runs, or whatever I'm doing, basically I go to the other end of the spectrum. So I'm looking at around 180 if I'm doing sort of really hard paced runs, is the other end of the spectrum, and anything obviously over that I'm going too mad. But I try and, I'll give you an example. When I did the Chelmsford Marathon, there was elements, and that was hilly, but there was elements of that run where my heart rate was going sort of near 190. So I backed out of my pace, whatever pace I had at the time. I can't remember what I was doing, but we was running fast splits at the end to try and get that 4:13, I think we did. But I was running a hard pace, but I was watching my heart rate, and it was like bing, 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 bing at the top of the scale. So I was running with Billy, and I said, look, I'm going to take off the pace a bit here, because I know I can't maintain that pace for a long period of time, because I think we still had like 5 or 6k left. So that's what the difference is for me, using my heart rate. So instead of just using pace, I use my heart rate more as a gauge on how I'm feeling, how my body's working, as like obviously like an engine, and how it's performing, whether I'm putting too much pressure on that engine, whether I'm revving it too hard, all those kind of things. And I found that using my heart rate has really made a difference to my pacing. Right guys, so what tips can I give you with regards to pacing for marathon training? The biggest tip is to understand pacing and understand your own pacing. And that's why I wanted to talk about it this week on the series. And if you can try and get on top of that over the next 16 to 17 weeks, it will make a huge difference come race day. But it'll also make your quality of your runs during your training so much better. So that's kind of my top tip, and it's an obvious one, is to try and get on top of your pacing. Right guys, so my next pacing tip really is to establish what your pacing is. To do that, look at your 5k or your park run pace. Now this is a really good way of doing it. Look what your park run pace is. Let's say, for argument's sake, now apologies for anybody who works in miles, we'll have to calculate it out, but let's say you run 5 minutes per kilometres. Now this is fast, I understand that, but let's say you work on a 5 minutes per kilometre park run. So that's your race pace, like we said earlier. Your 5k pace is your race pace. Whatever that is, add like a minute onto it for your long run pace, your easy pace. That's not a rule of thumb, but it's a really easy way of kind of sort of working out a starting point for your easy pace. So like I said earlier, race pace 5 minutes per kilometre, easy pace 6 minutes per kilometre. If you can sort of work on that scale, it's a good place to start. So the final kind of pacing tip I've got for you this week is to drill into your stats. Now, if you've not got Strava or you've not got, I don't know, the Nike app or something like that, make sure you get it, because it'll be a big help when you're doing your marathon training. But drilling into your stats, understanding your pacing, understanding your splits, looking at your heart rate and all that kind of stuff, and looking back over your runs will make a massive difference to improving your training as you go through your block. It will make I know I've said it will make a massive difference. Looking at the run and going, right, I was running at this pace and my heart rate was doing this, and understanding how you were feeling and what you was doing, and was you going too fast at the start, was you going too slow in the middle, and all that kind of stuff. Understanding each of your runs, so whether you're going out to do your long run, whether you're going out to do your speed session, knowing and understanding your pacing from each of those runs, you can learn from it and then you can build on it, and that will really improve the quality of your training runs. And that is what I've been working on over the last year and a half, is to really improve my pacing in my training runs, and I think that has helped me massively when it comes to actual race day. So there you go, guys. This week I wanted to talk about pacing. As I said, I'm quite passionate about it. I really truly believe that getting pacing right, not just on race day, I mean, getting it right on race day is a huge thing, right? Having the right pacing strategy on race day is one of the biggest things, I think, to any sort of long distance running, and we'll come on to that later on in the series. But you can benefit massively by getting your pacing correct during your training runs. Getting on a pair of trainers and running out the door, running as fast as you can, is okay. But if you're trying to build stamina, you're trying to build fitness, and you're trying to build racecraft, and you're trying to build a mental strength for long distance running, getting your pacing right can make a huge difference to how your actual training block goes. So there you go, that's it. That's pacing. So I wanted to talk about it this week. Next week I'm not sure what we're going to talk about, because we've got Christmas. I may talk about recovery. I may talk about fueling, because I've had a few questions come in about fueling. So if you've got any questions for me, stick them in the comments below. If you've got anything you want me to cover on this series, stick them in the comments below. And I say I really do appreciate everybody who is commenting already, who has given me some sort of things to cover during this series. I really do appreciate it. And thanks everybody who's subscribing, liking the videos and commenting. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. So that's it. Catch you guys next week.